The stars looked different from the bridge of the UES horizon, as Captain Jake Morrison stared out at the endless black space ahead. His ship had been traveling for 3 weeks since leaving Earth's solar system, and today they would cross into territory that no human had ever seen before. The quantum drive hummed quietly beneath his feet, a sound that still amazed him even after 2 years of commanding this vessel. Jake was not a man who liked to wait for permission. At 38 years old, he had spent most of his life pushing boundaries and asking questions later. His crew knew this about him, and they trusted him because of it. When Earth's Space Command had given him orders to explore beyond the known systems, they had not told him to be careful or to follow protocols. They had simply said go and see what was out there. The bridge crew worked quietly around him. Navigation Officer Ben Parker checked their position for the 5th time that morning, his fingers moving quickly across the control panel. Communications Specialist Lisa Carter monitored the radio channels, listening for any signs of intelligent life. Chief Engineer Amy Rodriguez watched the ship's systems from her station near the back of the bridge. They were good people, and Jake was glad to have them with him on this mission. The ship's computer made a soft beeping sound, and Ben looked up from his station. "Captain, we are approaching the edge of the designated exploration zone," he said. "All systems are running normal, and we have enough fuel for another 6 months of travel." Jake nodded and walked over to the main display screen. The star map showed their current location as a small blue dot, moving toward a region marked in red. The red zone was labeled as unexplored space, but Jake knew that was not entirely true. Other alien species had been in this area for hundreds of years. Humans were just new to the neighborhood. "What do we know about the systems ahead?" Jake asked Lisa, who was monitoring long-range sensors. Lisa checked her readings and shook her head. "Not much, Captain. We are picking up some energy signatures that look artificial, probably space stations or large ships. There are also several inhabited planets in the next 3 systems. The signals suggest advanced technology, maybe more advanced than ours." Jake smiled. That was exactly what he had hoped to hear. Encountering advanced alien civilizations was the whole point of this mission. Earth scientists and diplomats had been trying to make contact with other intelligent species for decades. But they had always been too careful, too slow, too worried about making mistakes. The thing about humans that other species would soon learn was that they did not spend years planning and asking for permission before acting. When humans wanted to do something, they simply did it. This approach had helped them survive on Earth for thousands of years, and Jake saw no reason to change it now that they were exploring space. "Set course for the nearest inhabited system," Jake ordered. Ben's hands moved across his controls, and the ship turned toward a yellow star that was surrounded by several planets. As they traveled deeper into alien space, the ship's sensors began picking up more detailed information about the area around them. There were space stations orbiting several planets, and massive ships moving between different systems. The technology signatures showed that whoever lived here had been building in space for a very long time. "Captain," Lisa said from her station, "I am receiving a transmission. It appears to be directed at us." Jake raised an eyebrow. "Already?" "Put it on the main screen." The display flickered, and suddenly Jake was looking at an alien face unlike anything he had ever seen. The creature had large, multifaceted eyes like an insect, but its skin was smooth and silver. When it spoke, the ship's computer translated its words into English. "Unknown vessel. You have entered Zephyrian collective space without authorization. Please identify yourself and state your purpose for being in this sector. You must submit to inspection and provide documentation of your travel permits before proceeding further." Jake looked at his crew, and they looked back at him. Travel permits? He had never heard of such a thing. On Earth, people explored new places because they wanted to explore them. The idea of asking someone else for permission to travel through empty space seemed strange to him. "Open a channel," Jake told Lisa. The alien waited patiently on the screen as Jake thought about how to respond. He decided to keep things simple and direct, the way humans usually handled new situations. "Hello," Jake said to the alien. "My name is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earthship Horizon. We are here to explore and learn about your part of the galaxy. We come in peace and hope to establish friendly relations with your people." The alien's large eyes seemed to focus more intently on Jake. "Captain Morrison, you did not answer my question about authorization. Do you have proper documentation to enter collective space? Have you submitted requests through the appropriate diplomatic channels? These procedures exist for the safety and security of all species in this region. Jake scratched his chin and looked at Lisa, who shrugged her shoulders. He turned back to the screen and gave the alien his most honest answer. "We did not know we needed permission to travel through space," Jake said. "We are explorers from Earth, and we explore because that is what humans do. We are not here to cause trouble or harm anyone. We just want to see what is out there and maybe make some new friends along the way." The alien's expression, if it could be called an expression, seemed to change. Its large eyes blinked several times and there was a long pause before it spoke again. "You did not request authorization from the Collective Council. You did not file exploration permits with the Galactic Navigation Authority. You simply entered our space without following any established protocols?" "That is correct," Jake replied. "We did not know about any of those things." "Is that a problem?" The alien stared at Jake for several more seconds, then the transmission ended abruptly. The main screen went black, leaving Jake and his crew alone on the bridge. "Well, that was interesting," Amy said from her engineering station. Lisa was checking her communications equipment. "Captain, I am detecting a lot of activity on their communication channels. It sounds like they are talking to someone important about us." Jake walked back to his captain's chair and sat down. He had a feeling that their simple approach to exploration was about to cause some complications with their new alien neighbors. But that had never stopped humans before, and it was not going to stop them now. "Continue on course," he ordered. "Let's see what else we can find out here." Admiral Kextar had been serving the Zephyrian Collective for over 200 years, and in all that time he had never encountered anything quite like the humans. He stood in the center of the Collective's main command chamber, surrounded by representatives from 12 different alien species, all of them talking at once about the strange situation that had developed in Sector 7. The chamber was enormous, with curved walls that reached high into the darkness above. Holographic displays showed star maps and ship positions throughout collective space. At the center of it all was a massive table, where the council speaker Velnara was trying to maintain order among the arguing representatives. "The humans simply appeared in our space without warning," said Council Member Zarthek, his insect-like features twitching with agitation. "They had no permits, no authorization codes, no diplomatic credentials. They violated every established protocol for first contact." Velnara raised one of her forearms to call for silence. Her species, the Etherians, were known for their calm and methodical approach to problem-solving. Speaker Velnara had guided the collective through many difficult situations over the past 50 years. But this human problem was unlike anything they had faced before. "Admiral Kexatar," she said in her musical voice, "please explain to the council what happened during your encounter with the human vessel." Tar stepped forward and activated a holographic display that showed the conversation between his patrol ship and the human captain. The recording played Jake Morrison's simple statement about exploration and learning, followed by his admission that humans did not know they needed permission to travel through space. "As you can see," Kextar said when the recording ended, "the human captain showed no understanding of proper diplomatic procedures. When I explained our authorization requirements, he seemed genuinely confused by the concept. 'This is impossible,' declared Council Member Mortax from the warrior species known as the Hegemony. "Every civilized species in the galaxy understands the importance of proper channels and formal procedures. It takes years of careful negotiation to establish exploration rights in new territory." Velnara studied the data on her personal display. "According to our records, the average species spends 15.7 standard years completing all necessary documentation before being granted limited exploration privileges. The humans bypassed this entire process in less than one standard day." The chamber erupted in discussion again as representatives tried to understand how such a thing could happen. The collective had spent centuries building a system of laws and procedures designed to prevent conflicts between different species. Every aspect of galactic civilization was carefully regulated, from trade agreements to exploration rights to simple travel between star systems. Council Member Nixara, a tall being covered in crystalline formations, spoke up from her position near the back of the chamber. "Perhaps the humans are simply ignorant of our ways. We could send diplomatic representatives to educate them about proper procedures." Kextar shook his head. I have been monitoring their activities since our first contact 3 days ago. The humans have not stopped their exploration. They have visited 4 different star systems and made contact with 3 separate species. They are continuing to operate without any regard for our authority. The chamber fell silent as the representatives processed this information. The idea that any species would simply ignore collective authority was almost unthinkable. For hundreds of years, the collective had maintained peace and order throughout this region of space by ensuring that everyone followed the same rules and procedures. "What do these other species say about the humans?" asked Velnara. Kekstar activated another display showing reports from the species that had encountered human ships. The Mineral Consortium on Kepler-7 says the humans approached them directly and asked to establish trade relations. When the consortium explained that such agreements required approval from the Collective Council, the human representative named Ben Parker said they would trade with anyone who wanted to trade with them. The representatives around the table began talking among themselves again. This was exactly the kind of behavior that the collective's procedures were designed to prevent. Unregulated trade could lead to economic instability and conflicts between different species. "What about the aquatic coalition on Nereid Prime?" asked Council Member Yethron. "The humans contacted them as well," Kekstar replied. Coalition leader Thalmor reports that the human diplomat Amy Rodriguez asked for permission to study their underwater cities. When Thalmor explained that research permits required a formal application process that could take several years, Rodriguez said the humans would be happy to wait and work on other projects in the meantime. Velnara found this particularly disturbing. The humans were not only ignoring proper procedures, they were accepting delays and setbacks without complaint. Most species became frustrated with the collective's bureaucratic processes, but they understood that these procedures were necessary for maintaining order. The humans seemed to view the delays as minor inconveniences rather than important safeguards. "Have they shown any signs of aggression?" asked Mortax. "None whatsoever," Kekstar admitted. "All reports indicate that the humans are friendly and cooperative. They simply refuse to acknowledge that they need permission to explore space." This presented the collective with a serious problem. Their entire system of government was based on the principle that all space travel and exploration required proper authorization. If word spread that humans were operating freely without permits, other species might begin questioning why they needed to follow such complicated procedures. "We must take action to stop this behavior before it spreads," declared Zarthek. "The humans must be made to understand that they cannot simply ignore our laws and procedures." Velnara was not so sure that direct confrontation was the right approach. The humans had shown no hostility, and forcing them to comply with collective rules might create more problems than it solved. But she also understood that allowing humans to continue their unauthorized activities could undermine the authority that held their civilization together. "Admiral Kekstar," she said finally, "I want you to intercept the human ship and bring their captain to the collective homeworld for a formal hearing. We will explain our procedures to him and make it clear that continued exploration requires proper authorization." Kekstar nodded and prepared to leave the chamber. As he walked toward the exit, he wondered if the collective council truly understood what they were dealing with. In his long career, he had encountered many different species with many different approaches to problem solving. But the humans were different from anything he had seen before. They did not seem to care about authority or tradition or proper procedures. They simply did what they thought was right and dealt with the consequences later. As his ship departed for human space, Kekstar had the uncomfortable feeling that the collective was about to learn something new about the galaxy, whether they wanted to or not. 6 months had passed since the first human ship entered collective space, and the situation had grown far beyond what anyone could have predicted. Commander Troy Davis stood on the bridge of the UES Explorer, watching as 3 more human vessels emerged from quantum space near the Rigel system. What had started as one ship on an exploration mission had become a small fleet of humans spreading across the galaxy. Troy was younger than Captain Morrison but shared the same direct approach to problem solving that seemed to define human explorers. At 32 years old, he had volunteered for deep space assignment because he wanted to see what was out there beyond Earth's solar system. The reports coming back from other human ships described alien civilizations, new technologies, and trading opportunities that could benefit all of humanity. The humans had discovered something that surprised even them during their months of exploration. Most alien species in this region of space lived under complicated systems of rules and regulations that slowed down everything they tried to accomplish. Simple tasks like establishing trade relationships or sharing scientific information required years of paperwork and approval processes. The humans found this frustrating and largely ignored it. Navigation Officer Kelly Stone looked up from her station as another ship appeared on their sensors. "Captain, the UES Pathfinder just arrived from the Vega sector. Commander Wright is requesting permission to come aboard." Troy nodded and authorized the shuttle transfer. Susan Wright had been exploring the outer regions where more aggressive alien species controlled territory. Her reports would be important for understanding how humans were being received throughout the galaxy. 20 minutes later, Susan Wright walked onto the bridge of the Explorer, carrying a datapad filled with information about her recent encounters. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a reputation for getting things done regardless of obstacles. Troy had worked with her during training on Earth and trusted her judgment completely. Susan activated the main display screen and showed a star map of her recent travels. "The situation is getting interesting out there," she said without any preliminary greetings. "I have made contact with 17 different species in the past month. Most of them are confused by our approach to exploration, but some are starting to adapt to it." She pointed to a system marked in red on the display. "This is hegemony territory, controlled by a military species called the Mordak. They sent a fleet to intercept my ship and demanded that I leave their space immediately. When I explained that humans explore where they want to explore, they became aggressive." Troy studied the tactical data that Susan was displaying. The Mordak appeared to have powerful warships and a reputation for using force to control access to their territory. Most species avoided conflicts with them by respecting their boundaries and following their rules. "What happened when they attacked?" Troy asked. Susan smiled in a way that suggested the Mordak had underestimated human capabilities. "They brought 12 warships against my single vessel, expecting me to retreat or surrender. Instead, I fought back. Human ships are faster and more maneuverable than they expected, and our weapons technology surprised them." The display showed tactical recordings from the battle. Susan's ship had used its superior speed to avoid the heavier Mordak vessels, while striking at their weak points with precision weapons fire. The engagement lasted only 18 minutes before the Mordak commander requested a ceasefire. "Did they try to negotiate after the battle?" Troy asked. "That is where things became really interesting," Susan replied. "The Mordak commander, a being named Growltech, asked me why humans were willing to fight rather than follow proper diplomatic procedures. When I told him that humans defend themselves when attacked, he seemed to respect that approach." Troy was not surprised by this outcome. Humans had always been willing to fight when necessary, but they preferred to solve problems through cooperation and trade. The fact that alien species were beginning to understand this about humans suggested that first contact was proceeding better than expected. Callie looked up from her communications station with news from other human ships. "Captain, I am receiving reports from Commander Parker on the UES Discovery. He has successfully established trade agreements with 5 different worlds in the Centauri region. None of them required approval from the Collective Council." This was exactly what Troy had hoped to hear. The humans were proving that complicated bureaucratic procedures were not necessary for peaceful cooperation between different species. By simply approaching other civilizations directly and honestly, they were building relationships that benefited everyone involved. Susan brought up another display showing economic data from human trading activities. "The numbers are impressive," she said. "Human ships have established trade relationships with 43 different worlds in 6 months. We are exchanging Earth technologies for alien resources and knowledge that will benefit both sides." Troy walked over to the main viewing screen and looked out at the stars surrounding them. Each point of light represented solar systems where humans were making contact with alien civilizations and learning about the galaxy. The Collective Council and other established powers had tried to slow down human expansion, but their efforts were proving ineffective. "Commander Davis," Kelly called from her station. "I am receiving a priority transmission from Admiral Morrison on the horizon. Put him through," Troy ordered. Jake Morrison's face appeared on the screen, and Troy could see that his superior officer had news about recent developments with the Collective. Troy, we just finished a formal hearing with the Collective Council on their homeworld. They are not happy about human activities in their territory. What did they want? Troy asked. They wanted us to agree to follow their exploration protocols and stop making unauthorized contact with other species. They offered to grant us limited exploration rights if we would submit to their authority and respect their procedures. Troy could guess what Morrison's response had been. The humans had not traveled across the galaxy to ask permission from alien bureaucrats who wanted to control their activities. What did you tell them? He asked. Morrison smiled the same way that Susan had smiled when describing her encounter with the Mordak. I told them that humans appreciate their concern, but we will continue exploring and trading with anyone who wants to work with us. If they want to join us in these activities, they are welcome to do so. The transmission ended, leaving Troy and his crew to consider the implications of Morrison's diplomatic approach. The humans were essentially offering alien civilizations a choice between cooperation and irrelevance. Species that wanted to benefit from human technologies and trading opportunities could work directly with human explorers. Those that preferred complicated procedures and bureaucratic delays could continue following the old systems, while humans moved forward without them. Susan was studying the star maps on her datapad with interest. Commander, she said, I think we are about to see some major changes in how this galaxy operates. The humans have shown that exploration and cooperation do not require permission from established authorities. Other species are starting to notice this. Troy nodded as he considered the future of human expansion among the stars. The galaxy was about to learn that humans did not ask for consent before acting, and that this approach might work better than anyone had expected. Dr. Alex Turner had never expected to become humanity's unofficial ambassador to the galaxy, but that was exactly what had happened over the past year. He stood in the conference room aboard the UES Diplomatic, a ship that had been quickly converted from a research vessel into a mobile meeting place for the growing number of alien species who wanted to work with humans. The room was filled with representatives from 12 different civilizations, and Alex was amazed by how much the political situation had changed since humans first entered this region of space. What had started as simple exploration had turned into something much larger and more significant than anyone had anticipated. At one end of the long table sat Captain Nina Rodriguez, representing the Novari Republic. The Novari were a young species who had been waiting for 30 years to receive exploration permits from the Collective Council. After watching humans ignore the permit system entirely, they had decided to launch their own unauthorized exploration missions into unclaimed territory. We followed the human example, Captain Rodriguez explained to the assembled group. Instead of waiting another decade for bureaucratic approval, we simply began exploring. In 6 months, we have discovered 4 habitable worlds and established colonies on 2 of them. Alex nodded as he made notes on his datapad. The Novari decision to abandon the permit system had caused serious problems for the Collective Council, but it had also proven that the old bureaucratic methods were not necessary for successful space exploration. Sitting across from Captain Rodriguez was Ambassador Thalmor of the Aquatic Coalition. His species had been among the first to make contact with humans, and they had quickly adapted to the direct approach that humans used for conducting business and diplomacy. The coalition has voted to withdraw from the Collective Council, Thalmor announced. We will establish direct trade relationships with human worlds and any other species that prefer efficiency over bureaucracy. Our people are tired of waiting years for simple decisions that should take days. This news did not surprise Alex, but it represented a major shift in galactic politics. The Aquatic Coalition controlled important shipping routes and mining operations throughout the region. Their departure from the Collective would encourage other species to question whether the old system still served their interests. At the far end of the table sat a representative that Alex had not expected to see. Commander Zektar was a crystalline being, whose species had always remained neutral in political disputes between other civilizations. The crystallines were ancient and wise, and their decision to attend this meeting suggested that even the oldest species in the galaxy were reconsidering their positions. The Crystalline Confederacy has observed the changes that humans have brought to this region, Commander Zektar said in the musical tones that his species used for communication. We believe that the traditional systems of authority and control are becoming obsolete. The Confederacy will support any approach that promotes peaceful cooperation and mutual benefit. Alex was pleased to hear this statement from such a respected species. The crystallines had been neutral for thousands of years, but their endorsement of the human approach would carry significant weight with other civilizations throughout the galaxy. The meeting was interrupted when Communications Officer Lisa Carter entered the room, carrying an urgent message from Earth. "Dr. Turner," she said, "we just received word that the Ethereal Conclave has made contact with Earth's government directly. They are demanding that humanity cease all unauthorized activities in this region." Alex had been expecting this development. The Ethereal Conclave was the oldest and most powerful civilization in the galaxy, consisting of beings made of pure energy who claimed to have guided galactic development for millions of years. If they were taking direct action against humanity, it meant that the situation had reached a critical point. "What did Earth's response tell them?" Alex asked. Lisa checked her datapad before responding. President Martinez told the Conclave that humanity appreciates their concern, but Earth will continue supporting exploration and trade activities that benefit all species involved. She also invited them to join the new cooperative framework that humans are establishing. The alien representatives around the table began talking among themselves as they processed this information. The fact that Earth's government was willing to stand up to the Ethereal Conclave demonstrated just how committed humans were to their approach of action over authorization. "Commander," Zektar spoke up from his position at the end of the table, "the Conclave has controlled galactic civilization for longer than most species can remember. They will not accept challenges to their authority without taking action to preserve their power." Alex understood the implications of what the crystalline commander was saying. The Ethereal Conclave had the power to influence entire civilizations through their advanced psychic abilities. They could manipulate the thoughts and decisions of most alien species, which was how they had maintained control for so long. "Have the Ethereals attempted to use their psychic influence on any human crews?" Alex asked Lisa. She nodded grimly. Captain Morrison reported that his crew experienced strange mental pressure during their last encounter with Conclave ships. However, the effects were minimal and did not interfere with normal operations. It appears that humans have some natural resistance to ethereal psychic manipulation. This revelation caused excitement among the alien representatives. Most species lived in fear of ethereal mental control, but if humans could resist their influence, it opened up new possibilities for independence from Conclave authority. Captain Rodriguez leaned forward with interest. "If humans can resist ethereal control, then working with your species offers us protection as well as economic benefits. The Novari Republic formally requests closer cooperation with Earth and all human colonies." Similar statements came from other representatives around the table. Alex realized that humanity's resistance to psychic manipulation had suddenly made them the most valuable allies in the galaxy for any species that wanted to break free from ancient systems of control and authority. The meeting continued for several more hours as representatives discussed practical arrangements for trade, defense, and exploration without interference from traditional galactic powers. By the time it ended, Alex had helped establish the framework for what would become known as the Galactic Free Alliance, a loose confederation of species committed to cooperation without bureaucratic overhead. As the alien representatives returned to their ships, Alex stood at the viewing window watching their vessels depart. Each ship carried news of the meeting back to their home worlds, where leaders would have to decide whether to embrace the new approach that humans had introduced or continue following the old systems of permits and authorizations. Lisa Carter joined him at the window as the last ship disappeared into quantum space. "Do you think the Conclave will try to stop what we are building here?" she asked. Alex considered the question carefully before responding. "They will certainly try," he said finally, "but I think they are about to learn something important about humans. We do not ask for permission to do what we believe is right, and we do not stop when someone tells us we cannot proceed." 2 years had passed since the first human ship crossed into alien space, and Captain Rachel Stone stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty as her ship approached the galactic core. The core region had been forbidden territory for thousands of years, controlled by ancient defense systems that the Ethereal Conclave claimed were necessary to protect younger, species from dangerous forces at the center of the galaxy. Rachel was 41 years old and had spent most of her adult life exploring dangerous places that other people avoided. She had volunteered for this mission because someone needed to find out what the ethereals were really protecting in the galactic core, and humans had proven they were good at discovering things that others wanted to keep hidden. The Bridge of the Liberty was quiet as her crew monitored the approach to the core systems. Navigation Officer Mike Chen tracked their position on the star charts, while Communications Specialist Diana Foster listened for signals from the automated defense network that surrounded the Forbidden Zone. Chief Engineer Carlos Martinez kept watch on the ship's systems as they traveled through space that no unauthorized vessel had entered in recorded history. The past 2 years had brought incredible changes to galactic civilization. The Galactic Free Alliance that Dr. Turner had helped establish now included 47 different species who had abandoned the old bureaucratic systems in favor of direct cooperation and trade. Human technologies were spreading throughout the galaxy while alien knowledge and resources flowed back to Earth and the growing number of human colonies. The Collective Council had tried to maintain their authority over the species that remained loyal to traditional procedures, but their influence was weakening as more civilizations chose to follow the human example. The Zephyrian bureaucracy that had once controlled exploration and trade throughout the region was struggling to remain relevant in a galaxy where permits and authorizations were no longer required. Captain Stone, Diana called from her communications station. I am receiving an automated challenge from the Core Defense Network. The system is demanding that we identify ourselves and provide authorization codes for entry into restricted space. Rachel walked over to the main communications panel and activated the transmission system. She had known this moment would come and she had prepared her response carefully. The defense network represented the last major barrier to complete freedom of exploration in the galaxy. This is Captain Rachel Stone of the Earth vessel Liberty, she said into the transmitter. We are here to explore the galactic core and learn about what lies at the center of our galaxy. We come in peace and with respect for any civilizations that may exist in this region. The response came immediately in the form of a mechanical voice that spoke with the authority of ancient programming. Unauthorized vessel, you are in violation of Conclave Decree 779. The galactic core is restricted to protect primitive species from forces beyond their understanding. Withdraw immediately or automated defense systems will engage. Rachel looked at her crew and saw the same determination in their eyes that had driven human exploration since the beginning. They had come too far and learned too much to turn back now because an old computer program told them they were not allowed to proceed. We appreciate the warning, Rachel replied to the defense system. However, humans do not consider ourselves primitive, and we accept responsibility for our own safety. We will proceed with our mission while taking care to avoid damaging anything important. The transmission ended, and warning lights began flashing throughout the ship as the defense network activated weapon systems that had been dormant for centuries. Rachel ordered her crew to battle stations while maintaining course toward the galactic core. Captain, Mike called from the navigation station, I am detecting massive energy buildup from defense platforms throughout the region. These weapons appear to be more advanced than anything we have encountered before. Rachel was not surprised by this development. The ethereal conclave had controlled galactic civilization for millions of years, and they would have the most advanced technology available. But humans had proven repeatedly that superior technology did not guarantee victory if the operators underestimated their opponents. The first energy blast from the defense network missed the Liberty by several thousand kilometers. But Rachel could see on her tactical display that the automated systems were adjusting their targeting. The next shots would be more accurate. Evasive maneuvers, she ordered. Carlos, give me everything the engines can provide. The Liberty began dancing through space as more energy blasts erupted from the ancient defense platforms. Rachel's crew worked with the precision that came from months of training and experience dealing with hostile situations. They had faced aggressive alien species before, and they knew how to survive when outnumbered and outgunned. Diana looked up from her communications station with surprise on her face. Captain, I am receiving a transmission from inside the core region. It appears to be coming from a ship, not an automated system. Put it through, Rachel ordered while continuing to maneuver away from the defense network's weapons. The main screen flickered and showed the face of an alien, unlike any that humans had encountered before. The being appeared to be made of crystalline formations that glowed with internal light, and when it spoke, its voice carried harmonics that suggested advanced technological enhancement. Human vessel, this is Core Guardian Lumtai. I have been monitoring your approach and your communications with the defense network. You claim that humans accept responsibility for their own safety and do not require protection from forces they do not understand. That is correct, Rachel replied while her ship continued avoiding weapons fire from the automated systems. We believe that intelligent beings should be free to explore and learn about the universe around them. The alien's crystalline features seemed to shift as it considered Rachel's words. The defense network was created to protect younger species from the energies that flow through the galactic core. These energies can be dangerous to organic life forms that lack proper shielding and knowledge. We understand the risks, Rachel said, but humans have always explored dangerous places because that is how we learn and grow. If there are specific precautions we should take, we would appreciate guidance from someone with experience in this region. Lumtai was quiet for several moments while the defense network continued firing at the Liberty. Finally, the Core Guardian spoke again with what sounded like approval in its harmonic voice. You are the first species in thousands of years to request guidance, rather than demanding access or fleeing when challenged. The automated systems will stand down while I provide you with the information you need to explore safely. The weapons fire stopped, and Rachel felt her ship's engines return to normal operation. Around them, the ancient defense platforms powered down their weapons and returned to passive monitoring mode. As the Liberty continued toward the galactic core with Lumtai's guidance, Rachel realized that humans had just opened the final frontier in their region of space. The forbidden zone that had limited galactic exploration for millions of years was now accessible to any species brave enough to accept responsibility for their own safety and wise enough to ask for help when they needed it. The human approach of action without permission had transformed the galaxy once again.